welcome to That Guy's a Maniac, the podcast. The podcast, so why is it plural? You fucked the fucking intro already.
Every episode.
Yeah.
Say welcome, you'll get it wrong in the second word.
Yeah, oh god. Welcome to That Guy's a Maniac, the podcast. Your hosts, as always, are Richie and Farley. Say hello, Farley.
Hello.
This is episode 19, and we're going to be talking about 1996. But before that, you can also find more of our drivelling shite on www.thatguys.co.uk. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at That Guy's a Maniac. And I suppose we also do we have a sponsor, Farley? Who sponsors this?
We couldn't bring this quality podcast to you without a sponsor. And this week we are sponsored by Boomerang Bros International Airlines.
Boomerang Bros, okay.
Boomerang Bros International Airlines for all your airline needs. They also run special service for Mario Kart circuit teams flying out to such destinations as Sweet Sweet Canyon, Sherbetland and Shy Guy Falls. That's Boomerang Bros International Airlines.
Thank you, Boomerang Bros. Oh, for fuck's sake. Come on.
Fuck with the sponsor, dude. You'll never get sponsored again.
Thank you, Boomerang Bros. Oh, God. Right. Yeah. Cool. So, Farley. We were having a little chat the other day there, and I wanted to do a podcast about 1996 because, in my mind, I thought it was a very good year for games, or games that I enjoyed. Sort of that transition of moving from the SNES into the PlayStation and N64 era. But you mentioned, why are we doing it about 1996? Why are we not doing it about 1998? And I had no idea of the phenomenon that was 1998. Tell me a bit about the phenomenon of 98.
Yeah, so on the video games webosphere, however you want to call it, every now and then amongst gamers of a particular age, there's kind of a discussion as to what was the best game in video games. And recently, it kind of falls into the same basket as talking about Cap God. Have you ever heard that?
Cat God? Phrase? I have no idea what
Cap. So Cap as in
God.
Capcom.
Oh yeah.
Cap God. So when they go through like a phase of they can do no wrong, they become Cap God. And then they had the long... Do you remember that long phase where they'd commission games, have ridiculously high expectations for their sales, not hit them, and then just cancel everything? And then, I want to say about 3 years ago, Cap God came back when Street Fighter came back, and they were kind of firing all cylinders. So, very much part of that awful, jargon forum discussion boards. But 1998 is often brought up as being a belter of a year, and so when we have years where we've got a bunch of blockbuster or good titles coming out, it's often kind of compared to is 20XX the 1998 video games for the 21st century. So yeah. However, you've taken the which isn't too controversial, I think. You want to have a look at 1996, which is obviously 2 years before 1998, a little bit earlier in the kind of cycle for that particular generation. If you're a young person and listening to this is probably getting infuriating. Bunch of 80s and 90s kids talking about how the 90s were fantastic. They really were fantastic.
It's okay, I think our demographic doesn't include anyone.
Doesn't. Yeah,
full stop.
Right.
Just full stop. Doesn't include anyone.
Yeah. So, give this episode a skip if if you think the 90s weren't all that.
I mean, I don't think people are here for our groundbreaking journalism, you know. But yeah.
What are they?
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of set the scene of 1996, bring us back to those heady days. Oh, I hate using that word heady. It's always a heady day when you talk about something in the past. I don't know why it's heady. Halcyon. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So 1996. What was in the news, Farley? We had Dolly the sheep getting cloned. We had the royals all getting divorces, Diana and Fergie. We also had BSE. Do you remember BSE, foot and mouth disease?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, that was the year of that, and that was the thing when you weren't allowed to have school lunches with like spaghetti bolognese and shit like that, you know.
I don't remember that at all. I remember it being in the news, but I don't really remember much changing.
And yeah, along with BSE, we had a Labour government. We had Tony Blair doing his thing, and we apparently had the lowest unemployment years. I don't think it affected me. I think I was like allowed to be unemployed, or I shouldn't have been employed because it would have been child labour sort of thing. But yeah, what were you listening to, Farley? What were you listening to at that time?
Are you going to tell me?
Maybe, I don't know. It was like sort of Britpoppy stuff. I don't know if you were an Oasis boy or a Blur boy, or sort of into Suede, or were you more into... I think I know the answer to this question. You were probably digging Gina G singing Ooh Ah just a little bit for the Eurovision Song Contest.
One of Us by Joan Osborne. Garbage.
Yeah, absolutely. We also had, and I couldn't believe how old this album was, Antichrist Superstar by Marilyn Manson was 1996.
Really?
Yeah.
That was the height of Babylon Zoo.
Yep.
There's a lot of shitty, boring music there, like Supergrass, Radiohead, Blur.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think it was still quite a good gear for music. You also had the Macarena. You had Return of the Mac by Mark Morrison. Return of the Mac. I can't believe
Girl
it.
by Peter Andre.
Yep. Good Enough by Dodgy. The Sounds of the Summer. And of course, Jamiroquai doing his song where he's on Travelators. You know, doing that thing. Yep.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't a good year in music.
And what about films? What films were you watching, Farley? I think you were watching on repeat because you love the Scottish so much. Trainspotting?
I don't think I've seen Trainspotting.
You don't think you've seen Trainspotting? Fuck off. We watched it together.
Oh, can't have been very good.
Oh, I hate you. Fuck off. What about Independence Day? Did you like that one?
Yeah, that was alright. That
Yeah.
holds up, actually. Independence Day.
Yeah. It just there wasn't enough heroin taken in Independence Day for me.
Wasn't enough shitting the bed for you.
Not enough shit in the bed. Yeah. That's all I look for in a film. But yeah, we also had Happy Gilmore as well. And of course Leo DiCaprio doing his Romeo and Juliet with, I can't even remember who it was. Who was the girl in it? Claire Danes? Okay. Yeah, it was her. Okay. And
she just disappeared until Homeland.
Pretty much. But yeah.
It's good.
And in, of course, the other thing that is actually quite nostalgic for me at that time, and I don't know why this is, it's probably just because I was brought up with it, but it's Friends. It's Friends Season 2. It's a good time for Friends. Ross and Rachel are together. Joey's just bought Lazy Boys for the room. You know, so it's a nice time in Friends, 1996. But also there's games that come out in 1996, which is why I just kind of wanted to bring this up, because I think I was quite privileged to have both a N64 and a PS1 at this time, and of course the SNES. What systems were you rocking around that time?
So we probably would have had SNES. I don't think we got on N64 the year it came out. That was afterwards. Mega Drive, and then I think we got the PlayStation. Must have been late '96 or maybe '97.
Okay.
So I remember a lot of the first games we were playing weren't the first games out. So, you know, we were playing sequels to things, having not seen or played the first ones.
Oh, right. Okay. Cool. So, what I asked us to do is kind of run through and have a look at some of the games from '96 that, I don't know, shaped us, that we liked, and ones that we perhaps spent a little bit too much time on in our, you know, in the state that we were in 1996. So I'm gonna hand over to you. What was one of your 96ers that you spent a little bit too much time playing or enjoying?
So, back in 1996, in my home city, we didn't really have, we didn't have game shops, like chain game shops. There was no game.
Electronics Boutique.
Electronics Boutique, yeah. I don't know if we had one or if it was later. So we actually ordered a lot of our games through, and I wish I could remember the name of the company, because it later span off into something else. Maybe did it become Game? Maybe it didn't. But in the back pages of PlayStation Plus magazine would just be, you know, two pages with a big list of games. You had no idea what they were or if they were any good, and then we'd order those. So that's how we first got our first tranche of PlayStation games. And 1996 was the year of two good trilogy games. Alien Trilogy, and I know that was a lot of people's first PlayStation game.
Yeah,
which was quite good, and probably a high point in the Alien video game world.
I would say so. Yeah, until about Isolation, it was probably a forerunner.
Yeah, so it's Alien Trilogy. I think the first Alien versus Predator, then Alien Resurrection, and then Alien Isolation, I think are the four good ones. But the other trilogy that I wanted to talk about, which we had, was Platinum when we got it, so it had obviously been out for some time, although I don't actually know how the Platinum system worked, because you'd often see both the Platinum and the non-Platinum versions.
Yeah, and they were just, one was double the price of the other. It was fucking nuts. I never understood it. Yeah.
I know, and obviously the Platinum one, which is the cheaper one, had a shitty cover and a silver spine, which really messed up.
Your OCD collection of showing them all. Okay.
No, it's just actually there's a couple that messed up how these games look on the shelves. So the second trilogy, which I want to talk about, and one of our earliest PlayStation games that our family got, was Die Hard trilogy. Did you get Die Hard trilogy?
Yes, I did. It was actually one of the ones that I had on my list as well.
Hey,
there is another trilogy just before we run off as well.
Okay.
You've got Alien trilogy. Yeah, Mortal Kombat trilogy as well, which is bad. But, you know, we have to talk about Mortal Kombat every single podcast.
Yeah, of course.
And did you know...
later. Upcoming potential DLC characters.
Exactly.
So it's weird. It's weird, and we don't do this enough anymore, I think, which is start game series with a trilogy. Or based on a trilogy of movies. I don't know, it's weird. But unlike perhaps the other two, Die Hard trilogy was cool in that it was essentially 3 games in one.
Yeah, it's 3 separate games, yeah.
Yeah, So the first one, but vastly different games. So the first one, based on Die Hard, was kind of a isometric you made your way up floors of the. Is it Nakatomi Plaza in the first one?
Yeah, I would call it a platformer. Yeah, Nakatomi Plaza. Yeah.
Yeah, so you make your way up floors, and you're kind of presented with the isometric view of each levels. It's kind of a run and gun, but it's fun and challenging. Die Hard 2 was a light gun game, and quite a good light gun game, set in the airport. And then Die Hard 3 was a kind of like a proto Crazy Taxi, except it was more. There was less kind of stopping and letting people out. It was more just driving from destination to destination.
Yeah.
And they were it was weird, right? To have that trilogy like that, where the games are so different, and yet all three of them were good. The first one we played a lot of, and I think we got all the way through, and it was just solid from what I remember.
I'll be honest with you. Die Hard trilogy, the first one, I think I played it a bit, but I certainly did not. I don't think I completed the first one in any fashion. I just spent most of my time on the second one. But yeah, sorry, go on.
I'm just going to look up screenshots of Die Hard because I have.
Excellent. Well,
really isometric. It's fully 3D.
Yeah. It's more of a 3D platformer sort of thing.
Yeah, third person. And then we had, I think it was a Predator light gun to play through.
Okay.
Die Hard 2. I am looking at a Predator light gun. Yeah, we had a Predator light gun. Oh, I remember that box. It's got a really gaudy box, blue. Because you could play it with the joypad, but it was really tough, obviously, and not as good.
You did not play it with the joypad at all. Yeah.
And then the third one where you're driving around, and there was just so many. In a way, I don't know if it's because we were young and that's what we were doing, or it made an impression. But there's so many sound bites that me and my brother still refer to. All three of those games, and obviously some of them were lifted from the films. Yes, you've got like a Samuel Jackson voice alike. I don't think it was actually him screaming, "Are you aiming for those people?" every 2 seconds in the driving game.
Yeah.
The driving game was really hard.
I don't think
we've busted that.
I don't really remember, but I remember the driving game being kind of. Did it ever end?
Yeah,
I don't think.
Yeah, you had.
Okay. I was kind of thinking it was sort of like an infinite thing, like Crazy Taxi. You just kept on going, looking for explosives and turning them off, and that was it. I don't know.
Driving around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it ever ended.
Wow, good job. We both had it on our list. We both.
Yeah, I know, and we researched it so much. Fucking hell, brilliant, fantastic.
But yeah, I mean, what a treat for an early PlayStation game. Mix it up with 3 different games, being based on a movie and not being awful, which wasn't always the case back then. Hours of Christmas-based fun.
Yeah. I mean, I was a definite fan of the second one. I think that's where I spent most of my time, was just playing with the light gun and enjoying actually a light gun game, because they're so few and far between nowadays. We were talking about this recently as well. It's like, what has happened to light gun games? And obviously they just don't really exist anymore because of you can't use light gun technology on flat screen TVs. But you do have similar things with like the Wii, and the Wii had that what's it called, the House of the Dead, where you could like dual wield and things like that on it.
Oh yeah, no, the Wii was phenomenal. It was a renaissance for light gun games in the home, because you had both Resident Evil
4, yeah,
Chronicles.
Okay, yeah.
Great. the light gun games. Then they re-released House of the Dead. Link's Crossbow Training was the game that came with it's almost like a crossbow without the bow bit add-on. So you put the nunchuck and then you hook the nunchuck towards the back, and then you put the Wiimote in the front. And then the new House of the Dead Overkill also came out, and there's another one that I'm trying to think of that was also great. So yeah, I loved all those because I was quite a big fan of the GunCon games.
Yeah.
So Time Crisis, and then what's the other one where you do challenges?
Oh god, was it House of the Dead?
No, Point Blank.
Point Blank. Oh yeah.
And then we'd always get up to the level where you had one bullet and had to shoot the cork out of a champagne bottle. That's as far as we ever got, I think. So yeah, light gun games are great, and it was good to see them back on the Wii. There was also that it wasn't so good, but there was a light gun game, the Resident Evil light gun game. Fucking hell, my brain is not working.
It's too hot. It's too hot today. You're overheating.
It really is. It's hot and sticky. Resident Evil light gun game. Survivor.
But yeah, Resident Evil Survivor. Okay. Yeah, but along with that, it's like I just don't understand why we don't still have light gun games around. They should just be there, and it feels like the Switch has a perfect ability to do that. Still, I just don't understand why it's not there. You know, or even
I think there is a light gun game on the the kind of Wii Sports or Wii Play version on the Switch. Is Switch?
Oh, okay.
So it's perfectly doable. And then of course, perhaps things like the Kinect and virtual reality did in for light gun games, so you can sort of do what you can in light gun games, but less well using full body motion control, which goes off.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. There's still something very pure about like Duck Hunt, you know. Just being able to sort of shoot those things, very arcadey, which I feel is just missing from everything in general. I don't know.
Yeah, we also had I don't know how, but we had a weekend with Toe Jam and Earl and a couple of other Mega Drive light gun games. I can't remember why we only had a weekend. Maybe we borrowed it from somebody. Yeah, got a lot of time for them. And the Die Hard Trilogy one was quite good as well. Hidden weapons here and there.
I know, I think that was the fun. There was a lot of exploration you could do with that as well. And I remember it was also not quite infuriating to because you could change to go different directions or something like that, and it was by shooting one side of the screen or something. It was so good that we researched this in advance. Fucking hell.
Die Hard Trilogy, and I'm not convinced we've seen anything quite like it.
No.
Attempting to do three things in one game, and it's something that we, me and my friends who play games discussed a lot. I guess the mechanics of it are a pain in the ass, but why aren't there more co-op games where you've all got a different role? There are a couple. There's that PC airship game, but if you put all of those elements into one game, so you've got somebody who's driving around, somebody who's shooting things, and then I guess somebody who has the really boring job of just reloading. Or you can make a quick time event, or
there was a PC game, I think it was around 96, 97 as well, and it was actually made by Microsoft, which had a similar thing. It came with one of the crazy, you used to get these flight control joysticks or in fact, you probably still do. But it was one of these games, and basically you had one person who was doing like an RTS, but could launch a hero type character, who would be controlled by the flight stick sort of thing. So you would have this 1v1 sort of battle with sort of terrain vehicles and air vehicles and things like that, and you'd be fighting versus the computer, but you would be like, if one person was in control of the vehicles, they would be behind the joystick, and the other person would be doing mouse, keyboard, resource collecting and things like that, and every so often would be able to like give you access to a powerful sort of hero type air vehicle or whatever, and you were more, because you were actually a human character, you could stick around for as long as possible until you could be recalled or whatever. But yeah, that was a cool game I played with a friend of mine in school as well. That was good. I've no idea what it was called.
More of that, I say, because they almost did something. Weren't there plans for the Eve series? So Eve Online would
the Eve series has a lot of plans and a lot of different things it's going to do, and promises, including fixing Iceland's financial crisis of 2000 or whatever.
But wasn't that what Dust was supposed to be?
Was it? Oh, like Dust was a planet which would be affected by the Eve universe. So in theory, things happening in real time around this planet, like an orbital strike or whatever, could happen from a player. And I use the word player very fucking liberally when it comes to Eve. A spreadsheet maintainer. And things like that would happen. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been really excited about it, but
and you also had Valkyrie as well, which was their other thing for CCP in Nottingham or whatever it was, where they were doing this sort of one. I think it was like a team battler, but then you also had like a ship you could use, and it was sort of a standalone thing. I mean, aspirations are fine. It's a very expensive MMO, and apparently not as good as it used to be. So who knows?
Yeah,
I'm just being negative and down on EVE Online there.
Yeah, I don't really know why.
I probably love it. It's just one of these things,
You probably would. Probably get really into it.
Yeah. It's one of these things where you just sort of decide that you don't like it, so you're not going to get into it. Like everybody gives the Uncharted series really good reviews, but fuck it, no, I'm not interested. It was a cheap blooming fucking Tomb Raider knockoff. Not interested. Not interested. I don't care if it gets 99%. It's rubbish. Just because you don't have the time to invest in it, and you're kind of worried, oh shit, I need to learn everything I can about this game pronto. But yeah, so anything else about Die Hard trilogy?
No, but it was one of our earliest games on the PlayStation, and actually two more on my list. One of them is probably the first game that we had, and one's probably the second or third. So associate memories of looking at that game case and playing that game with the excitement of having a PlayStation, and as we've talked about at length, having a handful of demo discs, getting to play fragments of games that perhaps we never played again or saw again, and it all seemed really exciting, and in a way I think it's not really been until the Switch that I've had that same level of just general excitement about what's coming out and a game and a new platform. For a while there, it just seemed to be just more of the same. So yeah,
okay.
Especially excited in the same way. So yeah, for me, the Switch brings back some of those early PlayStation memories of making the jump from SNES and Mega Drive.
I mean, obviously, yeah, that's something I kind of wanted to mention as well. It's like this really was sort of a transitionary time, because the SNES was still going strong. There were still games coming out for the SNES, and then the N64 was just about to come out, because I think it came out like sort of at the back end of 1996, whereas the PS1 had been out since about the sort of end of 95 or the start of 96. So there was still that sort of, we still like 2D sprites, and of course everything that was 3D, or like even just looking at Die Hard Trilogy, that first one, where it's just basically blocks, with coloured blocks moving around, and a very, very square Bruce Willis. I mean, it's good fun, but it's that change there was just happening. And I was discussing this with you because, like, there was also these 2.5D games that were coming out, or that's what they were called at that time, where it looked 3D and everything had been rendered, and it was actually slightly prettier and a bit more rounder than things like Fade to Black or Die Hard Trilogy, but they were actually just 2D games. So they would be like games that would be, you couldn't move off an axis and it would play like a side scroller, but it would look like you were moving out of 3D and into different panes, I suppose, or different views. And the games that I'm meaning here are things like Pandemonium and Knights. Do you know what I mean? No? What do you mean? You don't know Pandemonium?
I know Pandemonium, but I don't know what you mean.
You don't know what I mean by 2.5D?
Yeah, I do, but you're not explaining it very well.
Oh, okay. I don't know how better to explain it. It's
just a 2D game.
It's a 2D game, but it's rendered entirely in 3D. So it's kind of like a good example nowadays would be New Super Mario Brothers, where it is only just on one plane. You're still doing a simple 2D platformer, but everything is rendered in 3D. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like those. It's like the precursor to that. And this was like finally being able to take control of technology that would allow you to make 3D effects. So actually fucking using vertices and shit like that now, as opposed to pixels everywhere. But that's all I was really talking about, was that transition there. Fucking hell, man.
As much as laud it, because a lot of it's very common to hear whenever we have a big year or at the end of a decade, and there's a big look back on 100 best games of all time or best games of the decade, and it's around a lot of people's sites Mario Brothers 64 and this huge excitement around jump to 3D. I don't think we really felt that as consumers. I mean, it helps that I think I said this to you the other day, if it wasn't for Mario 64, we wouldn't look back with rose-tinted glasses at how revelatory the move to 3D was. And as I also said to you the other day, there was a lot of shit.
There was a lot of shit, I know.
Broken games, which, yes, they were 3D, but awful to look at and didn't really work. And somewhere in between 2.5 and 2.5 and 3D, but not in a very good way at all. And a lot of games, I think, did kind of shoehorn in the fact that there was these 3D elements to them, and they really didn't need them. And I think Pandemonium falls into that category as well. Was anything added? Would that not have worked as well if it was just a pure 2D game?
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely added things, because there was like these sliding sections, and there was a sort of like it would come out to the camera as well, or pan away from the camera, which was quite cool. It wasn't that great a game, don't get me wrong. I'm not praising it to its the extremes, but it was there was more. I think it was more exciting. Like, even just to see the technology in action. Like, you know, the bullshit you used to be able to do in Theme Hospital, you know, where you would build a roller coaster and then you would click to be like
Theme Hospital?
No, not Theme Hospital, Theme Park. Sorry.
Build a roller coaster.
yeah.
It would
Oh dear.
Side of the hospital. And then you have to deal with all the roller
the victims straight away. Yeah. No, but in Theme Park you could like click to have somebody like take somebody's point of view, and you could go on the roller coaster. It wasn't a roller coaster, it was just a 3D. It wasn't even 3D, it was just a rendered fucking video. That was the same video every single time. You know, it was not your roller coaster that you'd built, it was just a generic roller coaster thing. But at the same time, it's still quite cool to actually think that you could do that. And with the 2.5D games, being able to bring your character closer to the screen or further away, or just sort of like add that sort of extra dimension, because it wasn't just like New Super Mario Brothers, which is static in comparison. You would actually get some sort of twisty, turny, helter-skeltery bits in it and things like that, which made it, you know, fun to look at. I mean, not necessarily like what's the word I'm looking for? It was good for the time, put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't think I would enjoy going back to Pandemonium. I'd feel, you know, it is what it is.
On that note, when you're talking about theme park, I do love in those games where you can jump in and see the perspective from a visitor. So the Jurassic Park one was particularly good at doing that. You could, you know, take the safari, jump in and see what the people sitting in the Jeep would see. And what was the other one? Is it Dungeon Keeper?
Yes, I think Dungeon Keeper. Yeah, you could like possess some of your minions.
Yeah, you could pick the viewpoint of any one of your minions running around. It looked absolutely awful, of course. It was fun.
Yeah. So yeah, that's quite cool. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we talk about one of my ones
Let's
now.
do that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I actually had
What's going on in your brain with the double actuallys?
Oh man, it's overheating from the warmth. But yeah, I actually had Pandemonium down there as one of my ones as well, but I don't think I'm going to discuss that any further. No, only because it was notable at the time. But yeah, the one I wanted to...
How did you tell us, paint us a picture, Richie. How did you come across Pandemonium? Did you just randomly pick it up? Did you play it on a demo?
No, Pandemonium was hyped. It was hyped to the nth degree. It was in all of the magazines, all the PlayStation magazines. You know, this is the future of platforming. This is the future of this, that, and the next thing.
Really?
Yeah. I just remember so much about it, and like you would see that stupid clown and his female counterpart on the front of all of the magazines constantly. I just remember that being the game, and just every review of it being, oh my god, this is groundbreaking, all that sort of stuff. And I guess at the time, yes, it was quite different, and it was a new take on sort of platforming. But yeah, it's that is why I picked it up. I was just like hype. Now I remember prettiness, and I remember helter-skelter moment, and I probably remember in a very, very rose-tinted manner. But I do believe that it's it won't have stood the test of time. I'm just guessing that because I can remember it. I also don't think I ever completed it. I think it was one of these ones that was perhaps overhyped as well. And any other game that I could think of at that time probably drew my attention further away from it very, very quickly. But I mean, that's all I really remember about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
You can have another one. That was a short, yeah.
Yeah, it was more just a notable point.
I'm watching a video now, and this is not the game I was thinking of.
No?
No. But it does look familiar, but yeah.
You don't remember Pandemonium the Digester, no? So what game do you think you were thinking of then?
I don't know. No, I remember the Jester and the female character. But yeah, watching this video, yeah, it does kind of, you do. It's essentially you take Donkey Kong Country, and then instead of you just going from left to right, you twist that.
Yeah, and the camera can change and things like that. Yeah. But you're basically not moving off of that 2D plane very much.
Yeah, it's very much a camera gimmick.
Yeah.
But no, it's fine. Okay, I was overly harsh. I apologise, Pandemonium.
Okay.
And of course, it's very successful, right? Because then we saw, I guess, on the PlayStation, 1,000 games that then tried to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the thing. I think it was the first to kind of do that thing. And yeah, you got so many of them that were just trying to sort of emulate that. And even several years later, you still had them towards the end of the PlayStation 1's life.
Yeah, it became the kind of the go-to genre for shitty media TV tie-ins.
Yeah. I absolutely. Yeah, you can imagine Batman Forever coming out at that time, or Trainspotting the video game being a fucking 2D platformer.
And that'd be great, especially when you could have the tripping sequence, which would be running around a
fucking crawling babies on the ceiling. That's more like Silent Hill than anything, man. Jesus.
Okay, do your proper number one.
Okay, my proper number one.
Yeah, proper number one.
Yes, is Twisted Metal World Tour.
I have not played the Twisted Metal series.
But that's a lie. Much, okay, yeah.
I've touched them. And you're a big Twisted Metal fan. Is Twisted Metal 2 World Tour?
Yeah, Twisted Metal 2, it was released as Twisted Metal 2 in, I think, America or somewhere else, but in the UK it was Twisted Metal World Tour. And, yeah, I never picked up the previous one, which is a good thing, because apparently it wasn't as good. But Twisted Metal World Tour, for those of you who don't know, it's a sort of demolition derby with machine guns and homing missiles and fire missiles and napalms and dropping mines, and it sort of has a whole bunch of different car characters as well. So you have you can have a digger, or you can have a hearse, or you can have a guy on a motorcycle, or you can have a sort of big tanky World War II tanky thing, or a jeep, or very iconically, there's a guy who's standing sort of akimbo with his arms and legs spread, and he's attached to 2 tires, and his name is Axel. He doesn't look like he's having a lot of fun. It looks a little bit like he's been tortured and has wheels attached to him, but he's a character in that. But yeah, the whole idea of it is you play as one of these crazy variety of characters, and you play against a AI, or you play co-op, or you can play versus, and you can which is basically drive around the map, and you can you shoot each other. You can find ramps, you can find secrets, you can find little cubby holes to hide in, and basically you just have to take out all of the other opponents. And you do get boss characters as well. One of the most iconic boss characters would be the Sweet Tooth, or just Sweet Tooth, which is a killer clown in an ice cream van. And yeah, basically the matches could last anything between like 3 or 4 minutes to like hours of just trying your best to whittle down your opponent. I mean, it was all sorts of different cars and vehicles. It wasn't the prettiest of games. Well, by today's standards, it isn't. At that time, when you were playing it, you were thinking, wow, this is amazing, look at this 3D environment. And you've got different arenas. So you have like skyscrapers where you have to jump from one skyscraper to the next to keep yourself safe or to attack an opponent, and if you fall off it's kind of game over. But you also get things like Paris or New York, and it's all really, really well done with lots of little places you can hide, and you can just spend forever sort of. You almost want a one-player mode, exploration mode, because it was so much fun to find all of these extra secrets, and there's like little shop fronts that you could get through and hide in, which had little pickups, and you could stay in there and then sort of jump out and be able to sort of punch your opponents and things like that. And there was a lot of inputs as well. Like, when I say that, I mean like you could use what's it called? You know, like your Hadouken moves to actually do special moves as well if you were capable of using them and things like that. And yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was quite hard as well, and there were some characters like the guy on the motorcycle. He's, I think, supposed to be like Ghost Rider, and he's called Mr. Grimm. So I think he's kind of meant to be that sort of Ghost Rider style, but he was weak, super weak. Like, he just couldn't be hit because he would automatically die almost.
It's the classic racing. I don't know how you describe these racing battlers.
Yeah,
but you know how other games have classes. In this genre of game, you've got fat and slow, big, fat and slow, right? So monster trucks, JCBs. And then you've got super fast and really weak, and it's almost always somebody on an ATV or a bike. Yeah, it's a good trope. I like it.
Cool. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I just had a lot of fun playing that game, and like even when it was like just playing single player, it's got like a very sort of dark humour to it as well, obviously, because you get the killer clowns and all the characters are kind of like sort of weirdly sort of death related or something like that, and of course the weird Axel character, and you get these ending stories from them where they get their wishes fulfilled and stuff like that. But there was also like, it also had a healthy dose of hidden extras and cheats in it as well, which is really quite cool. So like you could play like maps from Twisted Metal 1 as well, and these were like suburban areas, and you could only get them by straight up inputting a code. You know, up left, L1, L2, down, right, X, O, you know, that sort of shit. And then you would get like that. They would unlock these certain things, and there were so many things that you could do there as well, including like you could even unlock the big main final boss guy called Minion, who I think was just basically Satan in a giant tank. And yeah, he would just sort of have like the best power up possible. And I think that's how I explored a lot of those maps as well. Just because you could like take out like 8 out of the 9 opponents, just leave that other one running about, and just have a little look around the map and explore and try and find things. It's weird that the exploratory part of this old PS1 game is the thing that actually sort of I remember so fondly as well. But
nowadays it's a little bit better, but I do wish more games would include a exploration mode, because describe exactly as you were describing. We used to do that on things like micro machines, right? So you had to play kind of co-op and then very carefully not edge off the screen to destroy the other player, but go off track, and you'd find these hidden areas and potential shortcuts. So kind of hours of not really playing the game as it was meant to be played, but kind of exploring and seeing things. It's cool.
Yeah.
The aesthetic, which is kind of like a really, I guess it's kind of Mad Max, gritty, post-apocalyptic. There's something about that again makes me really. It makes, to me, feels very early PlayStation. There are a lot of games like I don't know what it was, why there were so many that were like it, but things on fire and things a bit gritty, and a bit creepy.
It's very 90s. It's slightly edgelordy but cartoony at the same time. Yeah, yeah, it does.
I think before
Before games. Hello.
And this is sort of before games got. I don't think it's the case anymore, but games got very kind of tried and tested. So we saw instead of doing this huge diversity in both the genre but also art style. And for me, the early PlayStation days, one of the wonderful things about early PlayStation days was that there was just so much out there. Talked about Pandemonium, but also things like Syndicate Wars, Twisted Metal, and so that just imagination, I think, creativity and imagination before.
Yeah, I mean, there was a massive theme for that sort of dystopian future, and there was so much of that in the late 90s, where it was just sort of like this anti-heroes, and it led to things like The Matrix in '99, but there was definitely this sort of post-apocalyptic sort of Akira style, not cyberpunk, but pre-cyberpunk. It was a bit more gritty and leathery and Keanu Reeves.
Whereas today, I think a lot of post-apocalyptic stuff. Maybe it's because day-to-day reality's getting there. It's just a bit depressing.
Yeah.
It's just everything's run down and it's depressing, and most people have died. Whereas back then there's kind of an imagination around what the end of the world.
Yeah, everybody just had fucking costumes on instead.
Everyone just went, oh well, it's the end of the world, I'm going to chuck on some chains, some leathers, wear a clown mask.
Yeah, and get some neon paint, and it's okay because we've got our 14.4 modems. We can do some hacking in the dystopian future.
And then I'm gonna weld a machine gun to the top of a police car, and
all the time wearing fingerless gloves as well.
Yeah. Little did they know, the apocalypse would be far sadder, and people would be whinging about wearing masks or not masks. Sat at home.
Oh dear.
Yeah, far more boring vision of that. What happened to Twisted Metal? I like I said, I never played it. I was more of a vigilante. We got into this genre with Vigilante 8, which I absolutely loved. And then when I met you, I think you were still playing Twisted Metal.
Yeah, I think it was definitely one that sort of stuck around with my PlayStation 1, and I think I brought my PlayStation 1 to uni as well, so it was definitely one that I quite liked. But also, I mean, I skipped the other ones because they said, the reviews said it wasn't as good, so I never really bothered with it. But when the PlayStation 2 came out, and I know this is way off tangent from what we're talking about, but when the PlayStation 2 came out, I actually bought Twisted Metal Black. That's why I bought my PlayStation 2. You know, I think you were there. In fact, I think it was Silent Hill 2 and Twisted Metal Black were my main reasons that I wanted to buy a PlayStation 2.
Did it have painted black in the trailer or
yes
in the game?
I know, as you open up the game and anywhere they can get that fucking theme tune in, they would do it. It would just have painted black everywhere. Like,
I love that. Literal songs. Not practically, just this is called Twisted Metal Black. That song's about the colour black. We're putting them together.
Yeah. It was just constant. It's like, I think, like, if you paused it, it would go ding, ding, ding. I'm not even gonna. No. I'm not gonna sing fucking painted black guitar. Yeah, exactly that.
Ding. Is a rocking song.
That was much better. But yeah, that's just like it would be everywhere in the game. But Twisted Metal Black was good. It shows that it was a PlayStation 2. Early PlayStation 2 game, where there's still very, very blank textures on everything, but they introduced a really creepy character again on that creepy vibe, called Dollface. You know, you're already creeped out by it as well, just because that's its name, and it's basically a sort of burly trucker guy who drives a big truck, but has a doll-faced mask on. You know, so creepy, and it just kind of it goes along there.
I think at some point she became a sexy lady.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe she's always a sexy lady.
Maybe I just remember the sexy lady as a burly trucker man.
She's not sexy enough for you. Burly trucker man.
Oh God. Oh well. But yeah, there was a lot of controversy around it. I think like 2 or 3 people own it. There was talk of it resurfacing, and then there was a lot of issues with the online as well for Twisted Metal Black, because there was this PS2 modem attachment and all that sort of stuff.
Those early PlayStation 2 games, they had a little symbol, didn't they, on the box, which said they were online compatible.
Oh right, okay. Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking up Dollface, and I think I'm mixing up Darkseid and Dollface. But anyway, yeah, Twisted Metal World Tour, great game. Had some good memories in 1996. What's your next 96er?
My next 96er. Okay, let's stick in the vehicle-based genre. Is Destruction Derby 2.
Okay, another sequel.
So my brother both really enjoyed and was really good at racing games, freakishly so there was just no real point kind of competing with him. And so I think Destruction Derby was the game that came bundled with our PlayStation, if I remember correctly, and it just goes to show the jump in how game developers are working with the PlayStation, because Destruction Derby 1 to look at and to play was kind of awful. You know, being these boxy cars, and you'd be driving around these circuits which were all walled in. So they almost looked like, you know, when you go karting. There wasn't a go-kart. Everything had a raised wall, and then you had 6 or 8 little indicators around your car, and if you kept getting hit, you know, on your rear left-hand side, it would go green, orange, red, and then that wheel would be fucked, so you'd start driving like a trolley. It was enjoyable. We put loads of hours into that. Particularly, there's a course which has a crossroads in it, so that was always fun. And then Destruction Derby 2 is light years ahead of it. It's just phenomenal. Just within the space of a couple of years, the difference. And so we played. There was a demo which had Destruction Derby 2 on it, and we played that demo. I think you either had a time limit or you could do one lap of this track. But the track had bumps. It had bits would go up and down and gradients rather than this flat kind of boxed in area. And this one particular one, I forget the name of the level, we did it so often. There's a huge jump, but on the side of the jump is like a patch of mud, sort of like a ramp. And so if you hit that ramp at various angles, your car would just go cartwheeling through the sky. And so very early on we picked up Destruction Derby 2. I remember it's one of those dual, I don't know why it was one of those dual gem cases. So how Final Fantasy VII came in a dual gem case, obviously because it had 4 discs. And
do you mean
2 did.
What you mean dual, as in like held 2 discs, or what do you mean by dual gem case?
So your standard PlayStation game in Europe came in which was essentially a fat CD case, because that's when games had manuals. And then multi-disc games. Some multi-disc games would come in the dual one, so you could open the back and the front. And I remember Tomb Raider and Destruction Derby 2 also came in these dual cases. I don't know why.
Okay.
So Destruction Derby 2 was phenomenal.
The reason I'm asking and just putting a quick pin in this one is like because dual.
Hang a lamp on it.
Not hang a lampshade for like fucking hell. I can't believe you keep making that mistake.
So behind the scenes content, viewers, if you've been listening to this podcast, you would have heard Richie say hang a lamp on it a number of times. And I knew what he meant, but I thought I've never heard anyone say it like that. And so just before this podcast started, we had the discussion about whether it was hang a lamp or hanging a lampshade, and it is in fact hanging a lampshade. So you can
it was definitely the other way around.
Listen to Richie get it wrong at least 8 times, and you might have been wondering what he was talking about. He actually meant hanging a lampshade.
I used a different metaphor, putting a pin in it just quickly. You didn't need to bring another metaphor into it.
So I was hanging a lamp on you, putting a pin.
Hanging a lampshade, Farley. Hanging a lampshade on it.
You don't hang lamps. Anyway, carry on.
Jewel case, as in Jewel, or just the normal CD case.
Jewel.
Okay.
Jewel. I was calling it gem case. Oh man, how embarrassing. Are they called gem cases or jewel cases?
Just fat jewel cases. But I know what you're meaning with where you'd have the
jewel case.
Yeah, jewel case. I was just like thinking, shit, is it 2 of them or like different? But yeah, fat PlayStation 1 CD cases were the standard. Unnecessary amount of air and just took up extra space. And you liked Destruction Derby 2? I remember playing demos of it. I never played the game itself, but I do remember the damage system. So I think I must have played it like right at a mate's house or something like that. But yeah, again, it's another good co-op fun game, isn't it?
Yeah, and you see some of the best times were, I guess, just a straight up Destruction Derby. So you'd just be at a big arena. I remember there's one that was flat and there's one that had a mound in the middle, and that was the best level because as soon as it started, everyone
just runs up onto this big mound
on the middle, hit the mound. They go spiraling off in all kinds of directions. Some cars are fucked from that first moment on and are crawling around. It was great. It was just super fun.
It's like ostensibly that what you should do is not do that fucking
absolutely
jump.
Right. You stay out of it. Wait until the last three guys are there, and then just hack away at the smoking bits until the.
But it's really hard to resist just flooring it,
throwing yourself in and kind of seeing what happens. Seeing when you ended up. Another reason why it's in there is it's a Psygnosis game. And I don't think you could be a British gamer our age without having a bit of a soft spot for Psygnosis.
Yeah, of course.
And again, like a couple of games we've spoken about, Destruction Derby games didn't really go anywhere, as far as I'm aware. I think there was a 3, perhaps on the PlayStation 2, but it's a genre we don't really have quite so much.
I know. You kind of. I always felt like Flat Out should have had just a straight up Destruction Derby rip-off. That's a good point. I feel like that is a genre that should still exist in great numbers and have like multiple people who are recreating it. That's a good point.
And with with battle royales, although it seems like they're calming down now. I think the battle royale bubble has somewhat burst.
I think Apex died. Dead game.
So yeah, perfect excuse for a driving battle royale. Bring back Destruction Derby in some form or another, or just
100 cars down to one car. That sounds amazing. Let's get that game made. Fucking hell!
Throw an arena into Burnout Paradise or Flat Out, or there's other games which are almost there, right? Just not in that. And the mechanic around having a little car with bits, essentially mini life bars that you see deplete, and then when they deplete, that means your back wheel goes, or you're slow, or your front wheel goes, or I think it's if you got a double, if the front two you got a double max damage on those, then you'd be out of the race completely. So towards the end, it became awesome. The tech was to protect your front, which would inevitably mean driving around backwards. Yeah. It was good.
I just had a little flash to what this game might be, and I've decided I don't want it to exist anymore. It's going to be... What? Well, if you have a look at what some of the free-to-play battle royales are like, I was just thinking, okay, you're going to be able to customise your car, and then you're also going to be able to buy the gold bumper, which gives you the extra health, and you can get all the little pay-to-win fucking elements to add to your car to make it into make it super hard to defeat. And I've decided I hate it, so I'm a little bit worried.
What's the Land of Shadows or Warframe or Raid Lord? What's the generic free-to-play title for a Destruction Derby game?
Oh, for Wheels of War.
There we go. Take that to the bank. Wheels of War.
Yeah. Oh god, I hate it already. Oh, sorry for peeking there.
Ruined the idea of it.
I really did, and I feel ill. Oh dear.
There we go. I mean, Destruction Derby 2 still exists, so chuck it in PlayStation 2. Off you go.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your next 96er?
My next 96er. Okay. I suppose it has to be, and I'm sure it's on your list as well. Resident Evil.
Hey, yeah. That was on my list, but I guess you were going to mention it, so...
Yeah. I mean, first Resident Evil, such a brilliant game that, like, within 6 months they'd already brought out the director's cut edition of it as well. Yeah, I mean, it is... Bravo team, Is it Bravo Team or is it Alpha Team? It's Bravo Team. They're kicking about in the in the mansion, killing zombies and zombie dogs. Then later, green frogmen, and ultimately some purple monkeys and a giant fleshy blade handman. And remember Amazon Jail. It's a great game. Great puzzles. It was static 2D backgrounds, but you had a 3D model and models around that you could sort of push blocks, and you could basically, it was a sort of a collect 'em up, in that you had I'm sorry I used that term Farley, and that you had to like find a key or find a gem in order to open a door, and that's ultimately what the entire game is. But it's good fun, because it's in that sort of B-movie world. It was of its time, because there was quite a lot of zombie fanatic hammer horror films, and this one was just straight up, it was like, no, don't go out there. No, don't open that door. And it was just so badly edited. And that first opening sequence, which is like, I was just blown away because it was real actors and real people. Yeah. But then you look at it and it's just like, it was the worst production values ever. And, it's clearly been dubbed over by other people. But yeah, it was so inspiring just to see like this zombie type game, and to treat zombies like they should be treated, as the slow ambling zombies, and have a little fun shooting mechanic along with like this puzzles that were just taking you around the entire mansion, and there was such a fun feeling of fear, and I think this is where most survival horror comes from, of just like, do I have enough? Do I want to walk around this next corner? And especially because the camera angles were static, it was even more scary, because you knew that if you walked a certain degree, you would turn the camera, or if you knew there was a zombie already in the room and you could hear him plodding, but you didn't know where he was plodding from because of the camera angle, it just made it so much more scary in that fashion. And of course it had its jump scare moments, the whole ceiling crashing in on Jill, or checking out a bathtub and the guy comes out of the wardrobe. Oh, I don't think that was the way it happened. How did it happen, Farley?
You read the Itchy Tasty file. Yes,
and then he pops out of the wardrobe. Yep, there. Yeah, it's a great game.
It is a great game, and in our household, I think this game, alongside perhaps Tomb Raider, they really brought the family together, and it was the first time that we'd seen. Well, for us, it was the first game that was doing something different, right? So it wasn't a race, it wasn't a platformer, it wasn't arcadey, it was something based on exploration, on thinking. It was, and obviously it's not the first. There were point and click PC games before that, and we could argue about non kind of challenge based arcadey, because we have to mention the word arcadey.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for us, this was the kind of game that me, my brother, my mum and my sister could all kind of get together and tackle, and it's this kind of game which I enjoyed a lot more, as fun as some of these other games were, and obviously it had a huge influence on us, and the later games. Phenomenal. Do you remember how you got onto it in my and nostalgia and rose-tinted glasses? I don't know how we ended up picking it up. I don't think
I got it as a birthday present. So it was just kind of like it was a friend just got me as a birthday present, and I was a little bit dubious, but of course blown away by that opening sequence. And I remember I probably spent far too long on the game as well. I feel like I'll have cleared everything on my first playthrough as well, as in like I would have explored everywhere and tried everything that I can. Maybe I'll have missed secrets or something like that, but it would have been I think I probably spent like 8-10 hours on a playthrough of that, easily. And I remember like it was hard as well, because obviously like it's that hoarding mentality that still exists in Resident Evil games, where you just don't want to. You want to try and save as much as you can, save all of the ammo and save all of the consumables as much as you can. But like I remember that last part in the lab, specifically the purple monkeys, and I feel like I had a guide, or oh my god, I just had a flashback. Do you remember when you thought it was hilarious that in Tekken 2 I had like a laminated fucking
move list?
Yes, I made maps of Resident Evil 1.
I think we did as well.
Yeah. So I think I like copied them off the screen and I made them bigger using a photocopier at my local library. That's fucking nuts.
Just for you.
Yeah, it's just like I needed to make it bigger, and then I remembered that like you can do that on photocopiers. And I think it used to be like, I think it was like 10p to use the photocopier, so you can make a copy of it. Oh man, that's so crazy. Yeah, I just weird flashbacks of that.
That's the.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you lose it from the second playthrough onwards, really. But that's the wonderful thing about playing a Resident Evil type game for the first time is you don't know where your next clip of bullets is, or where the next green and herb is, and do I try and get past this zombie or not, or do I use my first aid spray only to find that there's a red, green and blue herb just sitting in the next room, and unfortunately that's something that you can only kind of really live once on that first playthrough.
Yeah. I mean, I played it again probably a couple of years ago on the Vita, because I got all three of the original PlayStation ones, and I think you're right. It's just like I kind of knew there was going to be green herbs like around the corner, or I actually had a stack of fucking first aid sprays in there, and that there's zombies in this room, and that moment where you come back from the guardhouse, you've just spawned fucking hunters everywhere, like so that's the point where you bring out the shotgun, or you bring out the acid rounds, or whatever.
Or you know what to pick up and what to leave, because you'll probably need it later.
It's like, alright, okay, I'm just dealing with hunters, so I'm going to go through the mansion with nothing but flame rounds, and
chuck all that shit in my chest. Make sure you double tap on the dead body, because he's got 2 clips, etc.
Dear. Yeah, Resident Evil, awesome game.
Resident Evil 96.
Yeah. So what's your next 96er?
My next 96er, and like I say, one of the earliest games after probably Destruction Derby, is Blood Omen: Legacy of Kain.
Oh, okay. I've not played this. And this has a lot of sequels and things like that, doesn't it?
It does. It has a bit of a franchise after it, but it takes a very different route. So from the second game onwards, they're all 3D sort of action. Oh God, I hate these types. Action. adventure game. But the first one was sprite based, and
okay.
It looked a bit like early Diablos. Don't know why we would have randomly picked this up, bearing in mind that we were just looking at a magazine page. And that's one that we played together and really enjoyed. You start the game by dying. Spoilers for a game. You start the game by dying, get brought back as this vampire, and then you spend the rest of the game kind of exploring Nosgoth. But it had essentially a gear gating system, so you by going in different areas and defeating bosses, you'd earn new powers which could help you explore different parts of the area. You'd level up your weapons, and then because you're a vampire, you could kind of suck the blood. I think you could suck the magic as well from the enemies. So it's a really cool mechanic. So it's really nice world, amazing music, and it's a game we spent a lot of time playing through. It was quite tough as well because essentially, all you had was a sword swing. So you're kind of walking around and you've got a sword swing, and that's kind of the only tool you had. And it's again, we really enjoyed that as a family, and it kicked off the whole Legacy of Kain series. And what's quite good about that, I mean, I don't know whether we'll ever get it back again or not. I think there were rumours of a new game, and then it got cancelled, and I think it was an online game at some point. But they really stuck to that solid story weaved in the first one. So it's one of those cool instances where in the later games you return to areas in the first game, albeit in full 3D rather than pixelated top-down view. And then Kain, who you play from the moment he dies, later becomes the kind of antagonist. Very cool game.
Yeah, I mean, I know of it, never played it. It does look incredibly Diablo-y. Like even just like looking at the health bars and things like that could definitely, persuade me that it was Diablo or a secret bit in it, But
it wasn't a dungeon runner though, so you didn't. It wasn't about getting.
Man, what are you like? Dungeon runner, action, fucking gated gear systems. Where's this all coming from?
You're obsessed with these genre labels. It's also really gory, which I don't think particularly put us off. But just I don't know, this is such a generic thing to say, but the world building was really tight. So it was Kain was voice acted, and he took himself very, very seriously as well, I think, which helped. So it was quite grim in parts, and then as you'd explore the area and you'd come across staked bodies, and there's a lot of gothic elements to the menu and the HUD.
Again, I suppose that kind of touches on the theme of the 90s as well, and along with our edgelordy fucking fingerless gloves and leather jackets, you got a lot of the vampire-y, gothic, deathy, medieval sort of spiel in there as well, and the over-the-top goriness that you get in Legacy of Kain, you also got in Diablo as well. Sorry to keep drawing that comparison, but that was definitely a thing of the 90s as well. Vampires particularly just seemed to be everywhere, or on TV or on fucking the Sci-Fi Channel at that time as well. It was very I think it is definitely of its time and quite telling in that sort of fashion. I mean, I'm sure you get it today, and in fact probably in glorious 3D, but it's more kind of, I don't know, I think it's definitely has a feeling of being of its time without any sort of, just as it is. But yeah, sorry, go on.
back when vampires were vampires and not sexy young men.
Sparkles. Yeah. Back when vampires were David Boreanaz.
Yeah, and at the end of the game, which is quite cool, you make a decision one way or the other, and you get a different ending depending on what you do, and then the series continues based on the evil choice that you take, and that was cool to kind of get and have this choice before. There was a lot of choice in games type things.
I never even knew that you'd played that or were a fan of it in any fashion at all.
yeah, it's one of our earliest games. I think we kind of replayed it through a couple of times, and it's probably, unlike the other ones, well, Resident Evil perhaps, it probably still holds up. It's still playable, I think.
Still playable. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Right now I am going to try and find a way to play Twisted Metal World Tour. So I'm very much feeling quite nostalgic here. But yeah, cool.
Next,
I'm going to do a cheaty one.
Okay.
It's proper cheaty because it never really happened.
I've got a cheaty one on my list as well, so it's fine.
Okay, cool. My other 96er is Super Mario RPG.
Okay.
You understand why that's cheaty?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we never got an EU release of that one. And I certainly didn't play it in Sorry?
You go on. I was going to say you didn't play in 96.
Yeah, did not play in 96. No, I did not. That being said,
I'm not too sure how many of these we actually played in 96.
Yeah, no, there's a good possibility that I picked some of these ones up and got in 2017. 2017? 1997? Fucking hell. But yeah, Super Mario RPG it was supposed to be the headliner culmination of what the N64 was going to become. So it was Square who solidly went over to the Sony PlayStation side, and Nintendo got together to make this RPG. And of course, everybody's seen the news recently about the rare Super Nintendo PlayStation 1 hybrid console that existed, or had its sort of only existed as one. What's the word I'm looking for?
Prototype.
Prototype, that's the word. So it only lived as one prototype before, Sony decided, what, fuck it, we're going to make our own console. And this was sort of that sort of break in between there. But Super Mario RPG is so good because it captures that Super Mario World / with RPG mechanics. It's like the fucking, it does what it says in the tin, man. But yeah, it brings in a new enemy, and thus allowing you to have a team with Mario and Peach and Bowser, and a few other new characters for the actual for the actual game itself as well. Gino, which you'll probably recognise from Smash Brothers, and then there's a cloud called Mallow as well. But yeah, it's isometric, as in proper SNES isometric as well. So that it means it's like straight diagonals. Straight diagonals. Does that make sense?
Straight diagonals.
Pure straight diagonals. Oh, yeah. Right. But so everything is on a diagonal, and it is sort of Final Fantasy type random events, random battles, except that you can run into them in the real world. So there will be like Goombas flying around, and if they hit you, then it turns into a random battle event or a battle event. And you get to use special powers. You get to use Mario's jump, or you can use Mario's hammer. Bowser gets his butt bash in it. He also can like use chain chomps as well as weapons. Peach can use a variety of umbrellas, and it's just sort of based around that. And you can use fireballs when you get fireball power-ups and things like that. It's everything that you could sort of associate with Mario in there, but then it's sort of got this arc where you have to go through 7 different lands because these swords have taken over castles, and the swords have like characters and things like that. It's your usual sort of RPG story as you're running through it, and there's loads of extra secrets to get. There's outfits to get. Leveling up is a thing, so you can get strength and magic and HP upgraded, and you can choose which ones you want to go for. The music is astounding as well, and in general it's just a fantastic game, and it's so annoying that it's just not out. You know, it is not easy to play this game. I think we were talking about it briefly, and you were saying, yeah, I think they brought it out on the Wii. Is that right? Or it's like available on the Wii store or something like that. Yeah. But it should be like one of the first ones that come out on that SNES, the Nintendo Online free games that they give you. You know, it's just such a fun Mario game, and I played a bit of Paper Mario, and I get that it's similar with the RPG mechanics, but it doesn't have the same kind of feel as this one does. This one feels like it was, but I mean, it's very, very much a SNES game, so it encapsulates a lot of the SNESness of the sprites. Yeah,
the terminology we're introducing to this podcast.
The SNESness.
Carry on.
But yeah, the SNESness of it is just through the roof. But yeah, it's a pixelated RPG. So
what if something reminded you of NES games?
I would say the color palette and I suppose great big pixels as big as your fist. I don't know. What do you mean?
But how would you describe a game if it reminded you of the NES?
How would I describe a game if it reminded me of the NES? As in, like,
there was SNESness for SNES games. So would it be NESness for NES?
NESness. The NESness of games. There was a very typical type of NES game, which was usually a side-scrolling platformer of some kind with very badly drawn sprites, or as best you could. So I would say
4 colours.
Yeah.
4 shit colours.
Yeah.
One of which is garish purple.
I mean, the first thing I'm actually thinking of is that horrible Turtles game that came out on the NES. And I think we've talked about this before, about how unforgiving it was as well.
Yeah.
It's just like you would go down manholes and it would just be like, you get hit twice, you're dead, game over. But it's like if you moved just a little bit off the screen, then fucking enemies would respawn immediately. So they would just start firing ninja stars at you whilst you're, technically off the screen, and can't hit them. And, horrible things. But yeah, I never completed that one. But yeah, I think my NES-ness would be defined by how the just you always had these like silly platformers with the crap graphics. I think that my NES-ness is defined by that. It's just these flat rubbish pixely characters with the 16 colours or however many colours there was in that time, and yeah, that's what I would define by that. But with SNES-ness, I would probably say because it's got a richer colour palette, but it's still very pixely. I don't know, it sticks out in my brain even as a really good SNES game, which I, without getting into legal issues, didn't play on the NES or the SNES. But yeah,
it's gonna come and get you.
Kent, you heard nothing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's much more I can really say about Super Mario RPG other than like it is a great RPG game. It is so fantastic to have like the Mario characters in it. It plays like, it just plays like a SNES RPG, but it's got a lot more heart to it, and everything is good. So I'm gonna stop talking about it.
Man, everything is good.
It's so good.
Put that on the back of the box, Nintendo. If you ever re-release it, everything is good.
Yeah, just fucking bring it out for the SNES Virtual Console, please.
We got another 3 games this week, and none of them were Super Mario RPG, obviously.
I know, it's like whenever I see that notification, I get excited, and I'll click on it on my phone, and I will just sort of wait and hope. And then it's annoying because there's people out there like me, because I will get fucking things on my Google News feed which is kind of like, oh, Super Mario RPG is still not on the Nintendo Store, and like, fuck off, man.
Did it come with the the mini SNES?
I don't know, actually. That's a good question. No, probably not, because they didn't have any other Square games, did they? Oh, fucking Google SNES Mini. Yeah. Hi listeners, listen to SNES Mini.
Listen simultaneously.
Yeah. How great this is, doing research on the fly.
It's not like we knew what the theme was going to be all week.
And also, I'm pretty sure it isn't. No, we got Super Mario World, Mario Kart. I'm not going to name all of them. That's even worse. Fucking.
Yeah. No. Down at the bottom. After
What?
Yoshi's Island, before Contra 3.
What? Where are you looking? Oh my god. Super Mario RPG. No way.
Is it worth, bearing in mind you have Nintendo Switch Online, is it worth the cost of a SNES Mini
No.
to be your Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars machine?
No, absolutely not. And there's no. The only thing that's good about that, I as much as I like the idea of the SNES Mini, and you get the controllers with it that are the old classic controllers, is like, I think if I was to end up owning it, I would probably just not play it. I mean, it's one of these stupid fucking things, isn't it? Like, even if they do bring it out on the Nintendo store, What is it fucking called? Nintendo Online.
Nintendo Switch Online.
Okay.
Service.
Yeah, whatever. I would probably think, yeah, great, I'm going to play this, and then just raid World of Warcraft and never play it. You know, it's just one of these stupid things. But yeah.
Unattainability is part of the...
Yeah, that probably is a lot about it, yeah.
Part of the charm.
But yeah, it was a great game, and it was a great game to play. I did play it in '96, and it was a phenomenal story, and I strongly advise anyone to play it, despite my previous statement of the probably not playing it.
Play it. What I really like about the Mario RPGs is you actually get to see interactions between the Mario characters, because otherwise, you know, apart from the 30-second cutscene at the beginning of a Mario game and the 5-second one at the end of a Mario game, or you know, them walking out the tunnel in whatever sports game you're playing, those relationships have never really been, you know, explored.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
What about in Galaxy? Does it not do a bit more of that?
Not really. No, you talk more to the starman on your ship than you do with Luigi or any of the other characters.
Yeah, well, that's just one thing I would mention about Mario RPG is how glaringly missing Luigi is as a character. He just isn't there. I think there's like a text note or something like that where he sort of mentions he's doing something else, or he's looking after the plumbing business somewhere else. But yeah, that was a glaringly missing thing as well. I think now that you're mentioning Luigi as well, I think like the ones in the Game Boy Advance, what were they called? Superstar Saga.
Yeah.
They kind of captured a lot of that Super Mario RPG as well. And of course,
really good.
Yeah, I mean, I played through them and they were, I mean, it was good fun. That being said, I don't remember them particularly well. But I just remember being a lot of hidden blocks, like because you've got the ability to jump in this sort of isometric world, and I remember finding myself just jumping into midair an awful lot because there was hidden blocks. You know that thing in Mario where like you can just jump somewhere and there will be a hidden block. Yeah, that, and you're just sort of covering a map of just jumping. Move to the next square, jump. Move to the next square, jump. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, great game. What's your last 96er?
My last 96er is also cheaty in that it came out in 96, but I don't think it came out on a platform that we were playing in 96. And that is Command and Conquer Red Alert.
Yeah, Red Alert on the PC. Yeah.
Yeah, but we played it on the PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
And the important thing about us playing on the PlayStation is you could hook up 2 PlayStations and 2 TVs with a what was it called? It was an iLink cable. There are very few games that you could play with over a cable. So you'd have to have 2 PlayStations, 2 TVs, and this cable, and 2 copies of the game to play various games. I think the original Destruction Derby was, but I don't think we ever had somebody with a second copy of the game. So we had this, and a friend brought his PlayStation over, and we played hours and hours of Red Alert 2. So we just set it up in the living room, and then it would be, I don't know, kind of like almost like a sports arena. So there's just these games that were going for hours and hours. People coming in
Brilliant.
the room, walking one side of the room, walking the other side of the room, see how things were going. Laughing at plans that one person was hatching for the other person. So I remember in one particular game, my brother just built hundreds of dog kennels, and so he just had this army of dogs. You kind of send out expeditionary forces every now and then to test where the bases were, whatever. And I remember Dr. Wu's little army of men getting destroyed by this army of dogs, but because they all there's like the dogs kind of jump onto the sprite and do this horrible kind of little mauling. Because there were hundreds that all jumped at the same time, all the dogs merged into one sprite, so it looked like one dog.
Brilliant! That's brilliant.
So yeah, just things like that. I mean, Command & Conquer, real-time strategy game. I didn't play Command & Conquer, the first one, until much later. I didn't really like it. I much preferred the kind of World War II setting.
I think everyone preferred the World War II setting.
The sci-fi, futuristic World War II setting rather than the kind of greys and green of the original Tiberium timeline. I mean, there's loads to love about Command & Conquer. The music was fantastic. I've actually downloaded quite a few of the RTS ambient music, which is essentially long tracks of nothing. Really listenable to. Really enjoyed, again, similar to Resident Evil, the kind of camp half live action cutscenes. And yeah, it was just a really solid kind of RPG. We'd play it versus the computer a lot of the time as well, but there's something wrong with the AI, so you could kind of easily stall them out, and so that was basically the tactic to win. If you were just playing a kind of bunch of players on a map type version rather than playing through the missions and the story. And then the sound bites, so very similar to the little sound bites from StarCraft and Warcraft that get stuck in your head.
Yeah.
And sampled and remixed, and quite a few of those from Command & Conquer are still rattling around. So yeah, and again, almost included it not as a gimmick, but with some of the other games we've discussed, it was stuff that was happening on the PlayStation that didn't really happen after that. And there is some, and I know that gamers of our generation endlessly whinge about things like couch co-op, but there was something kind of special about essentially having a LAN party with PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly.
Which just isn't replicated just through playing online. I don't think. But again, had this huge entry requirement of having to have 2 of all of those things. Did you ever play Command & Conquer Red Alert?
I played it on the PC.
When it came out in 1996, rather than whenever.
I actually reminded of another game which I'm wondering came out around the same time, because I used to like a lot of these strategy games. And Command & Conquer was definitely a good... oh, fucking hell. No. Wait a minute. It's like... It was definitely a good strategy game. And it came out a year later. Another one that I quite liked, which is called Dark Reign. Do you remember that one at all?
Called what? Dark?
Reign, as in Reign of a King. REIGN.
No. That is not ringing any bells at all.
Okay, well, it's very, very similar to Command & Conquer. It's set in the sci-fi future, and it's sort of like rebels versus the Imperial, and I can't remember who they are. It's just like Freedom Guard versus the evil corporation. What were the 2 sects in Syndicate Wars?
Oh, the trenchcoat guys. And
yeah.
The other guys.
But yeah, essentially it's that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was it was just, again, these games where you would mine resources and then create units and upgrade units and all that sort of stuff, and then just do that sort of thing, like Warcraft and Starcraft and stuff like that. But Dark Reign, I think, because I was playing
Eurocorp.
Eurocorp. Is this from Syndicate Wars?
Yeah, just popped in. Eurocorp was one.
Okay.
I don't know if those are the good guys or the bad guys.
Yeah.
I don't think there are good guys or bad guys in Syndicate
I think
Wars.
they're all bad in Syndicate Wars, and that's the murky dystopian world that they live in. With their fingerless gloves and trench coats.
Unfortunately, I came out in 1997. Otherwise, it would absolutely be on my list.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
The PlayStation version.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've interrupted you twice now.
It's not very interesting. I'm talking about a game that isn't Command and Conquer, which is fucking. But yeah, it's also got a lot of love as well. I think it's got an online community, still to this day. But yeah, Dark Reign was just like Command and Conquer, but it just grabbed me way, way more. And I was really into a lot of these sort of resources, like the Starcrafty, Warcrafty games, including Starcraft and Warcraft. And also, what was the other one I really liked? It was one that it was entirely based on the Star Trek universe. I think I might have been playing this one in uni as well with you.
Yeah.
But basically, you could
see it.
Yeah.
In my mind's eye. Star Trek. Carry on.
Yeah, so you would mine worlds for dilithium or whatever it was, and you could play as Picard. So you could play as the Federation, you could play as the Klingons, and you could play as the Romulans, but you could also play as the Borg. And there's a brilliant opening story to the Borg turning up, and they grab some of Picard's DNA. So they can remake Locutus and do that whole Borg storyline, so you can just have Locutus versus Picard. It's good fun. But yeah, that's just another one of these, and I think it was more 3D-ish, so I'm going to guess that it's probably like 99, 2000 or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah,
there's been a lot of fucking Star Trek games.
Yeah, I bet.
99. Okay, do any of these sound familiar? The Game Show? No, probably not. Star Trek Creator?
No.
The Next Generation. Star Trek, The Next Generation, Birth of the Federation.
Birth of the Federation? No, it will be Birth of the Federation.
That was turn-based strategy. Secret of Vulcan Fury.
It was turn-based, was it? What was it?
Starfleet Command?
Maybe Starfleet Command? No, it wasn't. Armada. Star Trek Armada. That's what it was called.
It's 2000, buddy.
Oh, fucking hell. I guess 99. It's February 2000. That's not too bad. But yeah, it was good fun. As Star Trek games go, I'm sure it is fucking awful if I was to go back to it now. But yeah. So yeah, Command and Conquer. What a great game.
Yeah. It's great game. Building turrets, Tesla coils. You can find it, I think it's before we I think it's after the reboot of the blog. There's a post called Ode to Hortruck, which is about the Hortrucks in Command and Conquer, which you can find on www.thatguys.co.uk. Maybe.
No, you definitely can. It's like it was one of our top posts for a long time.
As I think Rock Paper Shotgun picked up on Sunday Papers.
Yeah.
And it's about how if you attacking another man's ore truck is just not on.
Yeah, not cool.
Not cool. Seriously, not cool. Yeah.
Dick move.
Command and Conquer, Red Alert. There we go.
Cool. So I think
games that came out in 1996.
Oh, there was loads of them that we didn't talk about. I deliberately didn't talk about Tekken 2.
Yeah, I saw that and I thought maybe that would be in your list. Wipeout 2097.
Yep, it was on my list as well. I was going to, but we talked about a lot of car games. So we had our Twisted Metal World Tour, Destruction Derby. So
Crash Bandicoot, Tomb Raider we mentioned.
Pilot Wings 64.
Oh, that's a good one. Neverhood.
Neverhood? What the hell's Neverhood?
Yeah. It was a point and click, but it was all stop motion animation, or it looked like it was stop motion animation on the PC. It was like one of the few PC games that
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just googled it, and yeah, Neverhood. It's sort of like claymation sort of thing.
Yeah, really good. In a kind of another world, style when it comes to gameplay. But I think all hand animated.
That's quite cool.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat trilogy, which we touched on briefly. But yeah, that was a terrible game. Again, suffering loading issues because it was all on disc. Quake came out for the PC.
Yeah.
I feel like
Slug.
Yeah, I feel like that was so old, much older than that. But yeah, I guess it was. And yeah, of course, the one thing that we didn't talk about, and it never really hit the UK shores until a bit later, but of course, Pokemon Red and Green came out in Japan. And that's pretty much all I had on my list. Did you have any other gems there?
God, I hate that. Kirby Superstar was good. Mario Kart 64.
Yeah. Woo. Is that 96? I'm going to strongly debate that one. I think Mario Kart 64 is 97. As I Google it. Thank you, listeners, for, holding on there. Oh, December 1996?
Yeah.
Oh, and in North America and Europe in 97. Okay. Fair enough. We were both kind of right.
Dead or Alive?
Dead or Alive? Really?
In the arcade, though.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Was there anything... This was like the Game Boy was still going strong, right? In 96?
Well, I think the Game Boy Color had sort of been brought back, and it was sort of creating a renaissance of Game Boy games, because Game Boy had been going since 89. It was going and it'd gone, but I don't think you were still like getting newish games. I mean, I couldn't tell you.
So was Pokemon really late?
Pokemon was really late in the Game Boy sort of sphere of things, and I think you also had Pokemon TGC was like one of the last, the card game was one of the last sort of titles to come out for Game Boy, as it were. But yeah, it's like it was. I'm trying to think when Game Boy Advance sort of started coming on the scene. So that was Gen 3. So Game Boy Advance must have been around 2001. So that Game Boy must have had a bit of run of about nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great. I mean, I could just look it up. I'm not fucking gonna. But
there was something about... I remember seeing something about that. And the Game Boy Pocket came out in 96.
Oh, what? Yeah, the Game Boy Pocket. Yeah, the little tiny, slim... I think you got like an executive one, which is metal as well, didn't you?
I don't remember that. Yeah, oh yeah, like a brushed steel.
Yeah.
Game Boy Pocket.
Do you know? I always wanted the like I had the Game Boy Advance, and then I had the SP, and I had the cool little the NES coloured SP, which and I dig that a lot. But I regretted never getting one of the Game Boy Advance minis. They were tiny, you know, and I feel like you could sort of almost add them to a keychain, you know. And I bet if you look them up nowadays, and I'm actually going to do it, fuck you listeners, I bet they are so expensive, you know.
I also regret not buying one. They were quite expensive. Because I remember our good friend Randy McSparren bought one.
Did he? He got a mini?
Yeah.
What a prick.
Yeah, he had one.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, they were too tiny, right?
Yeah, I know. I think I'm imagining them so much different. I was thinking in my head, like, put it on your keychain, you know? It wasn't that fucking tiny, Richie.
400 hours into Pokemon Sapphire. Clutched hands on this tiny little.
I know.
Yeah, no, it's not quite keychain material. A little bit too big.
Yeah. Game Boy Micro, that's what it was called.
Yeah, there we go. Listen to us. I really like the Game & Watch coloured one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
£100 for a mint inbox one.
Yeah. As anybody who is also at home on a computer can fucking Google right now.
Yeah. eBay the Game Boy Micro and see what you get.
Let's just rename the podcast to Listen to Two Men Google on eBay. Google on eBay? Fuck off, man. We're done. Let's just fucking end this.
End of the podcast.
Say goodbye, Farley.
1996 was good. Was it better than 1998? We'll never know. Goodbye, Farley.
Bye.